Hi, my name is Alyx and I'm playing Half-Life Alyx and I'm doing it on the Xbox X. I've put the new PC Handheld through an all-extreme test, stemming from what began as a simple thought experiment. Can the new ROG Xbox X be used as a mobile PCVR device? Will it play VR games? Well, since it's a Windows handheld, I anticipated that VR games would run. But the crucial question was, how well? That's a different topic. I haven't researched VR on PC handhelds before. While devices like the Steam Deck and last year's Alyx exists, the ROG Alyx is my first handheld since the PS Vita. I primarily purchased the new ROG Alyx for gaming on the go, mainly for retro gaming. So for me, it's more of an overpowered emulation station. Therefore, please don't take this video too seriously or expect any in-depth analysis. There are likely dozens of tweaks and options that could result in a much better experience. However, I was quite surprised by some of the titles I tried. Let's begin with my first configuration using the Oculus link cable. Since AirLink never worked for me, I acquired the 5-meter long connection cable for my Quest 2 back then. Installing the MetaQuest Link app was quick. I downloaded Beat Saber, Edge to Nowhere and Lone Echo. Upon startup, I immediately encountered a very low frame rate in the main menu. The completely wide world, since they eliminated the Oculus home spaces, was running at only 10 to 15 frames per second. This initial meeting between the LRX and VR was not to a great start, to say the least. However, after attempting to launch Beat Saber and in doing some loading times, the headset transitioned into the game with a much smoother experience. I know Beat Saber also exists as a standalone app, but it serves as an optimal benchmark for any new devices due to the importance of controller input and reaction time. While I don't have performance numbers, playing Beat Saber was adequate, I suppose. It wasn't as sharp or fluid as the native app or the PSVR 2 version, and there were noticeable frame spikes. Overall, however, the frame rate was consistently high. I played 6 or 7 songs on expert difficulty and was able to complete them. There was a graphical glitch every time a wall approached. Most of the time it was merely distracting, but on one occasion the game froze for 2 seconds, causing me to fail the level. That fundamentally is a big red flag. I do not own the Steam version of Beat Saber and didn't want to purchase this a third time, so I can't say if that performed better there. Fun fact, I bought the Oculus version on its release day back in 2018, so the high scores there were completely clean. I was actually able to secure first place in some expert levels. So for a brief moment in time, I was one of the best Beat Saber players around, probably just for a few hours. Anyway, I also tried Edge of Nowhere, Insomniac's attempt to step into the real world. This game ran very well. I believe it's capped at 60 frames per second, mirroring the original Oculus Rift. Walking in the snowy landscapes and climbing around glaciers was still quite atmospheric.
Hopefully the rest of the team is all right. The man was probably delusional from scurvy or maybe hypothermia. I had no choice. What?
Finally, I downloaded Lone Echo, an Oculus exclusive game that I haven't started in over 8 years.
Morning, sunshine. And how are we feeling today?
Hey. What was all that about?
Hera, let's go ahead and run Jack's calibration program.
Acknowledged.
Right. In you go, Jack. I'll see you in a few.
Here the game was very blurry at first, but setting the resolution made the game look nicer. But then the game began to lag. According to the Armory Crate overlay, only 20 to 25 frames per second. So after the initial tutorial, I already gave up. I might give the game another try on my PC. All in all, the total experience with the Meta Quest Link was acceptable. It was definitely playable, but with minor glitches. I also experimented with the Oculus debug tool, but didn't notice any significant boost. I recall using the link cable on my older PC with an RTX 2080, and that was a good experience back then.
The upper atmosphere contains crystallized ammonia, which... I'm sorry, you wanted to answer your own question, didn't you?
It's all right, Jack. I'm sure I'll survive. So, Jack, I suppose congratulations are in order.
For what?
For your promotion.
There's really no need for that.
Come on now, it's a big deal. In a few days you'll be...
Fortunately, the link cable is not the only way to connect the ROG Alyx to my headset. Here comes the holy grail of wireless gaming, virtual desktop. I could dedicate an entire video onto this application alone, but to summarize, virtual desktop is easily the best 20 euros I've ever spent for virtual reality. If there were a time spent analytics, this app on the Quest would register in the hundreds, possibly even thousands of hours for me. The reliability and the performance are always spot on. The most critical factor for a good connection is having the device connected via cable to your router, which I achieved by using a docking station. With that setup, I can view the display as a large flat screen in front of me, and this works quite well. I don't have X-Wheel glasses for compression, but I already use my Quest 3 as a big screen in bed or somewhere else. I even discovered a use case for this, or rather I saw a YouTube video about the Legion Go 2 and its detachable controllers, which allows using the display as a vertical screen. I enjoy pinball games, and playing Pinball FX with horizontal screen overscaled in front of me was great. I set the Alyx display to vertical and the game adapted perfectly and ran buttery smooth. Since I want to use the Alyx for retro gaming, I can utilize this feature on systems like the Nintendo DS, which feature dual screens, by setting up one vertical monitor or having two screens via virtual desktop in virtual desktop. Now let's move into real VR gaming, and here comes the crazy part. Virtual Desktop includes an option called Synchronous Space Warp, or SSW. I know this option is very controversial in the Reddit and Discord communities, and I never really cared about it because of my RTX 4090, but I've now become a huge fan. From my understanding, SSW renders half of the game on the PC and the other half on the Quest itself. This essentially means that the Xbox Alyx only needs to run at 36 frames per second to achieve a 70 frames output, or 45 frames per second to get 90 frames. Because of the 45 interpolated frames from the Quest 3, the image might tend to ghost or blur a bit. However, in my testing, everything felt incredibly smooth. I am not sensitive to reprojection, so I prefer a smoother experience over a visual sharper one. On PlayStation, I always choose the 60 frames performance option over the 4K 30 frames option. Another feature Virtual Desktop has is the FOV tangent sliders. Using these, black bars appear at the edge of your screen. This means fewer pixels to see, but also fewer pixels to render. I set both to 65%. This does not mean half of my screen is black. It was just a small amount on the top and the bottom, and even smaller on the sides. This is noticeable at first, but after about 5 minutes into each game, my brain completely ignored them. With these options activated, I accessed my VR gaming library to try out the most influential PC VR games: Half-Life Alyx, Skyrim VR, No Man's Sky, Minecraft, Cyberpunk, and my personal favorite of all time, the Talos principle. One thing to note beforehand, I did a lot of testing off-screen, as I didn't want the performance to decrease due to the background recording of OBS, impacting my feedback. Let's kick off with Half-Life Alyx, which you already saw in the intro. I have no idea what magic Valve has been performed on this game, but seeing these textures, dust particles and lighting effects all at 90 frames without any noticeable stutter was really truly incredible. If someone were to put on the headset without knowing what system this was running on, they would probably be surprised that this is just a mobile device you can take everywhere. As you can see on the screen, the FPS is at 90 frames. The ROG Alyx uses AMD's Armoury Crate, where the display shows 45 frames per second, and the Alyx is totally capable of maintaining this at all times. The performance options were set to low, so there are definitely ways to improve shadow or lighting quality. Even so, what started as a short "can it run" test turned into a 2-hour-long gaming session. I stopped asking, "does it run?" I started asking, what battery runs out first, the Alyx or my headset? Since the Alyx was plugged into the charging dock, we had a winner there. I even tried a more demanding area with more enemies and intense shooting. The performance remained buttery smooth there too. The only reason I died was I'd forgotten the controls. At the time of recording, the Steam frame is still not announced, and we have no idea what it is. The rumors point out to a mobile PC VR device. Based on my experience, playing Half-Life Alyx this way is absolutely doable. Just don't try to fall off any planks. In the same vein of must-have PC VR games is Skyrim. You know I'm a big Skyrim VR lover. My second video on this channel was an hour-long discourse about Skyrim's AI systems. For this Xbox ROG Alyx test, I stuck to the base Steam version. No mods, no fancy shaders. What you see here is my first launch of the game. I finally awoke, but the image quality was horrible, as if sleep dust was still covering my eyes. I endured the info so I could save and tinker with the options again. It turned out that my render resolution was way too low, 38% according to Virtual Desktop's overlay. And yes, this dampened my expectations for the rumored Steam frame again. In Virtual Desktop, you have different resolution scale options, from
I'm a potato
to
Ultra.
And
Godlike.
yes, those are the sound effects you get when choosing the option. I went to low first, but then set it to high later on. And this was the first bump in quality. Another thing you can do is adjust the resolution scale within Steam itself, which can be set for each application. all of them are somehow linked together. But at this point, feel free to note that I'm just a gamer with no math or tech knowledge of how they are linked together, or what settings should be the most optimal. Again, as a spoiled RTX 4090 kit, all my games run perfectly smooth so far, and I've never needed to optimize them for low-end gaming devices. Anyway, I played around with the rest scale option, and in the end I believe I found my personally most optimal setting. Because of the initial letdown during the intro, I set the frame rate to 72 frames per second. But after finding my optimal settings, you can see my small dent of joy here, I took the risk and set the frame rate of a headset and the target frame rate to 90. Here we are. The game was incredibly smooth, functional and playable. Yes, of course, there are still no mods, but I was able to finish up Bleak Falls Barrow. In my gaming life, I think I have walked through this dungeon about 20 times already on all kinds of platforms, even PSVR 1. This time it gave me an emotional flashback. Last time I was here, one of my AI companions died. Even the narrator was sad. Rest in peace, Vandal, rest in peace. I acquired the Golden Claw, got my first piece of a shout, and exited the barrow from the other side of the mountain. The frame rate when going into the large open world again went down a bit, which was noticeable but neither laggy nor freezing. I was only freezing in awe, seeing the amazing Aurora Borealis in the night sky of Skyrim. Going into a town like Whiterun boosted performance again. To summarize, Skyrim VR on PC on Steam might not have the greatest reputation, but if you've never played Skyrim VR before, I think even the base game does a great job. And modding Skyrim, that could be a video on its own. With Blank and Hicks and community shaders, Skyrim VR becomes a world I could live in. I can't wait for my next 2-week Skyrim phase. So just like Half-Life Alyx, the Xbox Alyx passed this VR test. Next up, Minecraft and the Vivecraft mod. For this, I installed CurseForge and downloaded the simple Vivecraft mod pack by Tate Raider. It comes with the most essential add-ons. To be honest, I've lost track on the latest performance optimization mods on Minecraft. I played Minecraft back in the days when Optifine was the way to go. Loading up a new world is always buggy at the start, so I let it cook and forgot that I also already tested out shaders with mixed results. For now, I'll stick to the basic Minecraft without shaders and resource packs. And this was completely nice. The frame rate was again buttery smooth, and even the view distance was very decent. At one point I almost drowned because I forgot the controls. In Vivecraft you have to actually swim with your arms, and the same goes for climbing up ladders or rowing a boat. As with Skyrim you can get lost in the world for hours on end. Spoiler ahead, I already played the Minecraft 1 block challenge. I just need to edit the 25 hours of footage. If you don't want to miss out on that series, please subscribe. Thank you. So Minecraft on an ROG Xbox Alyx in VR? Check. It's perfectly fine for beating some trees. Let's move into some more demanding games. No Man's Sky VR is one of my games of this year. I got sucked in after the last Voyagers update. I kind of speedran the whole main campaign on my PC, so now I'm a bit burnt out by this game. I don't think that No Man's Sky is optimized for handheld gaming. There's even a startup warning that this game has small, hard to read text, which is not necessary to know for the VR version. Loading the world already took a very long time, and once I was in the game, the experience was very textures were messy, the anti-aliasing made everything jitter, and the frame rate was super slow. At first I thought it because OBS was running in the background, but even after setting the game to the lowest graphical options, this was not enjoyable. For a game with this theme, you'd think Space Warp should work here, but it never kicked in. I don't know if a game needs a specific option for SSW to work, but here I highly recommend not playing No Man's Sky in VR on a handheld. I flew to my base and it took forever to load again. No Man's Sky is a great game where you can sink hours of VR gameplay, but you should better focus on the optimized PS5 version or a high-end gaming PC. Next on my list is Cyberpunk 2077 with Luke Ross's Real VR mod. This game already gave me headaches on my RTX 4090, but in the end I finished the whole campaign there and will absolutely do another one with the DLC, which I haven't started yet. At first I played Cyberpunk on the handheld in flat mode, and this went perfectly well. Cyberpunk has a Steam Deck graphics preset with the optimal configuration already made. Using that gave me a good FPS, but that was just the 2D version. Luke Ross's mods are already very hardware demanding. And no matter which resolution scale I choose in the mod, or in the in-game settings or in Virtual Desktop itself, I was not satisfied with the outcome. Even with a fake 3D option mono, I didn't get the frames or the image quality that would make me say, yes, this is a very playable state. What you see here now is my last try with all settings at an absolute low, but where the frame rate was at least smooth. Since you aim with your head, you have to rely on steady camera movement, and I never get it to run smoothly. Playing Cyberpunk on a handheld? Absolutely great. Playing Cyberpunk in VR on a handheld? Better ask again in 5 years. Last on my list is a game that I will dedicate an entirely separate video in the future. This game is not demanding on your hardware, but on your brain and your heart, the Talos principle. The philosophic puzzle game got its own VR version made by Croteam itself, and is still my answer for the question, what is your favorite VR game? If this game gets a standalone version, and I'm absolutely sure that the Quest 3 is more than capable of running it, I would buy it just to support its dev team. The Talos Principle VR came out in 2017. The graphics of the levels are basic, but I love how over-textured the objects are. Your robotic hands and your tools are top-notch quality. The game on the Xbox Alyx runs smooth as butter. I don't know why, but my normal walking speed was abnormally high. There's an option to always run at max speed, but even when turned off, I was sprinting through the initial world. Text is super readable, and getting bombed shocks me every time. If you're not a fan of virtual reality, then I don't know why you're still watching this video, but I have good news. Talos Principle 1 received an update Unreal Engine version called Reawakened, and Talos Principle 2 even bumps the scale of a world and features a mind-blowing ending. I can't wait for Talos Principle 3, regardless of whether it's VR or not. If you've made it so far in this video, thank you for watching. To summarize my VR Alyx experience, it's a mixed bag. On one side, this is PC VR on the go. Playing Half-Life Alyx and Skyrim VR can be showcased anywhere, but that may also be due to their age and their optimization. Getting VR mods to run is a different topic. You may need to be an expert in modding and tinkering to have a great time. If you just want to have a big flat screen in front of you without attaching any docks, this is also a viable option. I don't have any X-Wheel or Waybank classes to compare, but I can see that this mixed reality on the go is a future accessory easily integrated in our everyday life. One last word about the Xbox ROG Alyx itself. I know it's an easy to mock Microsoft and its gaming division nowadays, but my personal impression on this handheld is great. I tested the games I wanted to play on the go in flat mode, and they all exceeded my expectations. The grips really felt like having an Xbox controller, although I pressed the library button way too often instead of options buttons, which is more frequently used. I am sure that the Alyx serves for me as an overpowered retro machine, and other handhelds would likely perform just fine. So for me, having never owned a Steam Deck or similar handhelds before, the purchase of the Xbox ROG Alyx was worth it. I even took it on my last business trip and finished the Alabaster Dawn demo on it. Anyway, thank you for watching. However you play your game, happy gaming, and as always, safe travels.